Coming to you live from a thunderstorm in the Florian Triangle, it's Volume 46 of the One Piece Virgins Egghead Book Club Podcast! That's right, I am your captain, Perona's one true husband. Or husbando, as they might say in Japan, which I don't think they do. I am Monkey D. Jones, joined as always by my vice captain, a man who may or may not be inflicted by the depression ghost. It's Aggie V. Rodriguez.
That's right, but you can call me Hogback.
I was about to say, would it be better to introduce you as Hogback? We see his body, and it's, I thought of Eggman from Sonic, but we even have an Eggman right here.
That's right, I was going to say, there's not really any joke, it's just, coincidental resemblance. I do be staying inside and working on science experiments more often than I go out into the open seas.
Well, Hogback, do you have perhaps a reason why you might want to study eternal life, Aggie? Would you want to live forever or make any dead woman come back to life? Are you truly the Hogback of reality?
Well, it's interesting. This is kind of relevant. So the other day, I was scrolling through algorithms, as I do. That's, the 2025 enjoyment that everybody does. And I came up on this guy. He was doing something I'd never seen before. It appeared like he's really into Harley Quinn from Batman.
He should be into Perona now. That's a real waifu.
Hey, you know what? I've seen her. I don't want to say that, anything that I might have gamed recently was spoilerific, but when I saw those ghosts right off the rip, I was like, I think I might have seen one of those somewhere before.
It might be waifu time.
They have it seems like the ghosts are very simplistic. They shouldn't be so identifiable, but, they are. It is what it is. But anyways, in this video, this guy, he I don't know if it was an Alexa connected to Chat GPT, but he had a Harley Quinn figurine and he was able to talk to it. And it was message received, and then it started talking in Harley Quinn's AI generated voice, with
This
Chat
is
GPT
the future.
text.
Everybody's gonna have just their own custom made AI waifu that talks to them in the voice.
I was like, I don't know what circles I've been in recently, but the circles I was in about 10 years ago would have handed me this information on a silver platter, so I might need to go be doing some deep dives, just diving deep into Hogback's laboratory after you see Nami naked and creaking open some doors. And
so you don't even need the zombie formula for eternal life. You can just plug in your dead waifu into a computer and then pretend that it's her.
I mean, hey, I haven't seen Ghost in the Shell in 25 years, but what's really the difference at this point? It's an AI trained on a character's personality, thousands of pages of dialogue, and somebody's voice that's supposed to sound like her. And
yeah, and Ghost in the Shell was too boring to finish, but I'm sure it had a happy ending. Anyway, we are covering today the final chapter of the Return to Water 7, also known as Post-Enies Lobby arc, plus the opening, I believe, 9 or so chapters of Aggie. Care to guess the name of this new arc?
Well, based on the cover of the volume, it says Thriller Bark.
Welcome to Thriller Bark. Da, 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 da. The Jurassic Park music starts playing, but instead it's interrupted by Michael Jackson's Thriller. We got some zombies, Aggie. Did you predict zombies volumes ago, that we would see zombies in One Piece? I think we talked about that.
Volumes ago, I think that certainly could have been
anything's possible volumes ago.
But I do know that as far as my most recent prediction goes, I think I was not anywhere near the mark.
Which prediction?
I thought we were going to be just right up to this Fishman Island that they were talking about, and I thought maybe the Florian Triangle would get us, maybe the giant ball frog tongue would leap out of the water and pull us down. We wouldn't even need to bust out the submarine. But we do get a lot of information about the Thousand Sunny and all of its capabilities in this volume. It's the only volume, according to the One Piece Wiki, which I only read up, I have it open for summaries in case I need to tap in on any fine points while I'm going here. But according to them, it is the only volume ever that does not have Usopp's Pirate Corner, which started with the appearance of Usopp. So since forever...
Interestingly, it might be also the only volume to have a horrible typo in the chapter numbers. Did you notice this, Aggie? I was so shocked. I grabbed my physical copy off the shelf, and they have the same typo in the printed book.
I can't say that it caught my attention, to be honest.
I think there's 2 chapter 447s, and then they skipped to 449. They fucked it up.
Right. Well, I will blame it on the fact that Chapter 448, now known as Chapter 4472, has a shocking cover story, which once again also diminishes one of my previous predictions and invalidates it. So,
let's hear about that as well. And look, 2 447s. What the fuck were they thinking? Oda, I'm gonna blame this one on you. No quality control in the American translation. Really, just cancel the whole series at this point if this is the kind of shit you're gonna deliver. But Aggie, what else did you get wrong?
Well, I thought when we had our good mole friend, who Eneru happened upon in the crater, and there was all these other seemingly deceased moles of different ages, which I mean eras, times throughout history, different parts of the world. I was thinking maybe there was some sort of temporal disruption, some kind of time rift maybe, where this had torn open and there could have been, just moles ending up on the moon. Maybe they were sending them there for some sort of ritual. It was something along those lines. But
was this a private theory in your brain, or did you say this on the show with me and E-Rich?
Oh yeah,
you said the temporal time thing? I must have missed that one. I was so distracted by E-Rich's sultry voice, I guess.
Yeah, it was either like that they were getting sent to the moon. Yeah, like I said, maybe some sort of time machine kind of thing. But I think mostly it seemed to me like the most plausible in order to interconnect all of these very different types of mole people based on their dress. That I would think that there had to be some sort of rift in time that was sending them to the moon, some sort of black hole or something. But just like real life, these fairy tales of magic get completely destroyed by true fact-check science. No, these are not just any moles jumping through time. These are moles that are scientifically handcrafted as robot mole soldiers by some man who's an old, very angular-skulled, possibly Asian scientist. I'm just saying he's got like a robot.
What do they call it? Machine Island? Is that where he's from?
Oh, yeah.
So just he's a robot.
And perhaps, maybe
we see him being built, don't we? Like under his face is all circuitry and wires.
Mm-hmm. It's possible that all of a sudden, after 3 or 4 mole soldiers from different eras in time jumped through the temporal rift, maybe they were just creating, machine soldiers at this point. Maybe we'll be doing that here in our world in the, the near future. But I'm gonna guess that probably all of them were just robots. And I guess they're being sent to the moon because they must have been soldiers that are combating the very interesting. I said before that what we saw looked kind of like Pluto from from Disney, but it's something even more disturbing than that. It's obviously there's this explosion, but it's like I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what it is. It's something about the circular drawn eyes that have just been tainted by Family Guy forever. But when I saw the moon base, the moon excavation, and the Grand Leader with his circular eyes and very just not particularly detailed mouth, I'm thinking it's I'm putting a Peter Griffin voice on him right away. He's talking to the angry Pluto dogs and other various goofy-looking, freaky animal beasts. So maybe more questions than answers in this volume's cover stories, to be honest.
Yeah, we've got this band of space pirates who are excavating the Endless Varse, also known as the Moon, and Eneru's pissed about it. He kicked one of them in the face for attacking our dear friend, Colonel Spacey, I believe was his little robot name. And these cover stories end with Eneru looking imposing up on a big tower, or on a structure, looking down on these space pirates who he's about to kill. I don't quite remember the lore of Eneru and the Varse that he explained to us in Skypiea. is this like his ancestral home? Is he? Was that the idea? Like, is he mad that they're destroying his ancestors' ruins here? Why is he taking it so personally? Because I don't think he's ever been here before. Is that what he was talking about, or what?
As I recall, I think it was that for a god such as himself, the Endless Forest was like his promised land. It might have been promised to him 3,000 years ago. So he pulls up and it's being, colonized by these space pirates. They're coming in for these natural resources, maybe some moon oil or something.
But even though he's just now getting there, and these people have been there a long time, it's still technically his because, again, it was promised to him in scripture long ago. So perhaps now it's time to exterminate the people on his land. Hey, you might be onto something, Eggy. I'm excited to see where this Edaru plot goes. But we did cover the cover story, I think, mostly here. We're doing things out of order because even though we're over 10 minutes in, Eggy, I need to ask, what is your top of mind?
Well, I gotta say this. This is a little strange, but I think although it seemed to be sort of meh at the end of last volume, Mr. Blackbeard's devil fruit power was so shocking to me that, honestly speaking, considering the rest of the volume is, really the build up or the very beginning of Thriller Bark, and there is a lot to take from that as well. I think just as far as encompassing everything up to this point is concerned, I think that that might be the most impactful thing that I've. Zombies existing, very close second, don't get me wrong, but I'm also still kind of thinking that maybe there's something to do with the zombification that is going to explain it. I'm feeling there might be a soul stone or something somewhere. There's like a rune that's animating these bodies, maybe a devil fruit power or something, I'm not sure, but that's just how I feel personally. When it was all said and done, the opening of this volume and the explanation and demonstration of Blackbeard's devil fruit power was so terrifying and so incredibly powerful that it stuck with me the entire time.
Well, let's dive into it then, since we need to cover that one chapter anyway, so we can put the arc on our tier list. Blackbeard claims his darkness fruit is the most dangerous power in the history of devil fruits, and that's probably because it just negates all devil fruits. If he touches you, you lose your power. That's game breaking. Like, you like to compare these things to video games, Eggy. Is there any video game power that just removes everybody else's?
Nothing immediately comes to mind, because you could have something like an anti-magic shield, for instance, that's very frustrating. Like, if you're, historically speaking, I have played magic-based characters in games where that's an option over physical, and so anti-magic shields do exist, or spell resistances. But this would be like a resist all, and that is very frustrating because you're basically you become impotent. You just are having all this, and I think Ace, it's kind of a roundabout, convoluted way for facing it in this standoff, since it's not necessarily that his devil fruit power is elemental so much as that it is just a devil fruit power, but it's still kind of a negating a counter spell, except this is like counter fruit. It's as I think our good friend Mr. Von Ool, or the guy whose name I always forget until I get it right, which
Van Auger.
Van Auger. He even says as much, like, oh, good thing that he has the physical capabilities even beyond what his devil fruit provides, because any ordinary man who is not the second in command, or the commander of the second fort, you know what I'm saying?
On
somebody that
Whitebeard's
needs his
crew?
strength. Yeah. No ordinary man would be able to resist and put up a defense to Blackbeard's power without having that devil fruit crutch to lean on.
We get so much information about this Blackbeard power here. It's basically, I'd say, less of it, just the darkness fruit. It's like a black hole fruit is how he's pretty much describing it, because it can compress everything with infinite power and crush it all out in this black hole and then shoot it back out, which even real black holes I don't think do that. Do we know what happens to the shit that goes into a real-life black hole? It gets all spaghettified, but where does it go? Does it just stop existing? That breaks the laws of physics, doesn't it?
It's been some years since I've done the research, but as I understand it, basically is like it's kind of like getting sucked into a vacuum. Like you get sucked in there, you're getting rattled around. You might be like molecularly disrupted. It's going crazy, and you're just getting spat out basically, and wherever it shoots you out into the entire universe.
Just as like particles at this point, completely removed from what you used to be. Well, that's basically what he's doing here with this whole city. He just spits it out as lumber.
Right. Beyond the power negation aspect of the dark fruit, this was really the quote that stuck out with me. As he's taking the entire city down, he says, quote, "My dark gravity compresses objects with infinite power and crushes them." That might be something of like an Ultima. Now, I haven't played Final Fantasy IV in probably 10 years either, but when I think of just the imagery that's being shown and such a description of a power, it just seems like, I'm sure there's definitely a counter that's going to come along at some point, but
this might be some end game, final boss level strength to have. Ability. I mean, how is Luffy supposed to fight a guy who, if you touch him, you lose your rubberness? Like, what is he gonna become a human? What the fuck would happen to Luffy? His whole body's made of rubber. Even when he was underwater in Arlong Park, they could stretch his head up. What happens if he touches Blackbeard?
And he can't do any gears, because that's the whole thing that we learned in Ennie's lobby, is the only way he's able to use his gear power and survive going through it is because his rubber in his body it allows for that sort of wear to occur.
He's just gonna have to punch him really hard, but how do you not get sucked up into a black hole?
That's a very, very good question.
Blackbeard and Luffy have a lot of similarities, and one thing that we learn here is that because his Logia is this darkness, so unlike Crocodile, who can just turn into sand and not be injured, Blackbeard takes the full damage from every attack you hit him with, and then it even gets magnified, and he's taking even more damage than he should. Just like Luffy, who has the guts and is not afraid to be injured in a battle, and will just punch the spikes on Don Krieg's cape shield and injure himself to hurt the enemy. I think that's interesting that Blackbeard also has to be very gutsy and tough and take a lot of damage in a fight to win. I think a lot of other villains usually avoid trying to get injured, so interesting that something that, a rubber power and a darkness power can kind of give you the same durability, I guess, or fighting strategy in a way. Anything else from this?
No, I would also say then, in terms of impactfulness, there's a sort of a text box to round the chapter out that just indicates this battle between pirates would be later identified as a trigger for the major events that were to follow. So, I mean, obviously, unveiling this kind of power, this standoff being, incorporated into the story, I would say just that in and of itself is enough to, kind of shift some pieces on the board, so to speak, of like where things might be arranged at moving forward, who's got the strength to do what and what they might want to do. And considering that Blackbeard is a traitor to his cause, he's a rebel from his own crew for what he did to be able to obtain this power. I mean, that's no good as far as my personal code of ethics would be concerned, but at the same time, if you're going to jump ship to get the most destructive power that can take everybody's power and do unfathomable damage, that's probably the one to do it for. So at least I can kind of give him a nod in that regard. But quite an interesting way to end off the arc, because we had so much, there's such gravity to so many different things that we had going on.
Literal gravity in the case of his fruit. The fight, we don't get to see how it ends. We just see this big clash of this flaming sun going up against a wall of darkness. But right before that, Blackbeard does offer Ace to join his crew. And Ace is like, yeah, I'd literally rather die. Fuck you. I would like to see the dark future where Ace decided to join Blackbeard, because I don't know how Luffy's going to deal with that, but Ace is not that kind of guy. He values his love for Whitebeard, and he wants to make Whitebeard the king of the pirates more than anything. He values that more than his own life. It is what it is. How do you think this fight resolves, Iggy? Because we don't get to see it. Now we're in Thriller Bark.
Well, I will echo Mr. Augur's sentiments that as terrifying as Blackbeard's power is here, I mean, Ace is a worthy opponent all the same. He's got his projectile ranged sorts of energy. All of these components, I think, to his fighting style, as much as I like a good flame fist as the next guy, I think just being able to command that sort of ranged energy attack here, it's probably going to be overall a very preferable fighting style to combat Blackbeard with. So I don't know if the rest of Blackbeard's crew just kind of chilling there. If Ace all of a sudden gets the advantage, are they going to hop in and do like a 5v1 and Ace could be like, oh man, Whitebeard would never do this. I don't know. I can't really say for sure, but it looks about as evenly matched as I could ask for, as far as who we have in the story right now and what we know their powers are and what we know their motives are for going against each other.
Okay, Agu, we need to put Return to Water 7 on our arc tier list. It's everything we read last week with E-Rich and then this one chapter. So I think it's, maybe 10 or 11 chapter arc, but it was so jam-packed with information that we could probably... we had a 2-hour episode. Like, we broke our own limit just based on one volume, basically the entirety of the arc. What do you think of it, Aggie? Where does it rank as an info dump as opposed to its own story? And do I need to pull up our list so you know what to compare it to, or do you have it still in our Discord chat?
I do have it from the chat, and still from the. I think it's got 2 arcs not included at this point, but I think probably. I think. Do
you want to talk it out?
Well, I'm kind of contemplating just the weight of all this information, and I think I am maybe going to determine. I think this is going to be one of those ones where it's just going to, just based on where we are, power scaling, and this will be like lore scaling. I think I'm going to probably put it above a lot of the East Blue here. So I think remembering that this particular ranking that has a very heavy B tier, I believe, is mine, if I remember correctly. I'm fairly certain. I think I'm going to put it below Drum Island in B tier, but above Orange Town.
Okay. So towards the top of B tier for Aggie. Well, here's my predicament here. At the very bottom of A tier, I have Logetown. And that was like a 4-chapter version, I think, of this arc. In a way, and we get these major, people coming back, like Buggy coming back was really huge for me. And this arc is that on steroids. We get Kobe and Helmeppo, and we get to see literal character growth and change with Kobe, and how, hey, once you dedicate yourself to something, you can have rapid change very quickly. People in the comments were shocked that I said it's only been 2 months since you met Kobe, but I think that is what Oda had to say about it. All the reveals of Luffy's family, Grandpa Garp, the big reveal. From Logetown, that mysterious man, that was your dad, Dragon, the most notorious revolutionary criminal in the world. Just so much info that it blew our minds chapter to chapter. This is a huge one. I love this one. If Water 7, Annie's Lobby, and then this arc were all combined into one arc, it's undeniably the best arc in One Piece so far, and I don't think this is any lower quality than the 2 arcs connected to it. So it's going to be A tier for me. The question is it above Jaya? Yes. Is it above Barati? Barati had that emotional gut punch with Sanji's backstory. And while this one did not make me cry, I did get a little bit upset reading Frankie's whole thing and the emotion of Iceberg telling him, hey, let it go, brother. You've paid your debt. You've overcome this horrible thing that happened to Tom. Ooh, it's tough. I guess Return to Water 7 is above Jaya, below Baratier. I'm putting it there. A tier.
I don't know. I wonder, maybe the next time that if I kind of page over the updating of the tier list, I might maybe bring Syrup Village up. Just, I think it probably overall, because I've got it in the list as it stands, under Orange Town, Little Garden, and now Return to Water 7, Drum Island. I think that...
You want Syrup Village above all of those?
Well, I just think for where it stands in the story now, because I mean, I put Syrup Village on there early on. You know, it was under Orange Town for me at the time because there were compelling elements of Orange Town with the story that I think I maybe dig it more out of Orange Town than Syrup Village at the time. But I think when the dust has settled now, you know, these introductions of the main Straw Hat crew members, maybe they did overall have a larger impact throughout this whole time period compared to like what happened in Orange Town. I mean, I still remember Orange Town, but you know, we didn't go back to Orange Town just now at Return to Water 7. We didn't get a flashback to them. We got a flashback to Syrup Village because it has that longer viability, or whatever you want to say, throughout the longer lasting impact. But I'll tend to that at some point.
It will percolate on changing Syrup Village. I think I still need to do my top of mind. And it was just going to be that they got the chapter typo in there, but maybe I should actually have something of substance from the story here. I mean, we're introduced to Gothic Ghost Princess Waifu Perona, she's a ghost princess, and her ghosts, if they fly through you, make you depressed. And we get to see Frankie and Luffy and Sanji, I believe, or was it Zoro, just down on the ground, wishing for death, comparing themselves to slugs. And I think, you know, what waifu could be better? Like, girls make you depressed anyway, so it's built right in. Very cute, gothic, royalty of the underworld in some way. Eggy, what do you think of Perona?
Well, you know, I think that both of the generals here, I think out of the two generals that we get acquainted with towards the end of the volume here, I am going to say that she's probably more interesting to me just because Absalom, I think affectionately referred to as Perv Salome by the zombies. I mean, it's another zone type fruit, it looks like, because I think it seemed like he was not, he's like probably some werewolf type or something, it seems like. So I don't know. I mean, hey, he's got time to win me over yet, but I'm getting a little zoned out. You know,
the guy trying to rape Nami could win you over?
I mean, it's interesting. This is kind of an aside. I'll try to keep this tangent short, but I was reading this volume. I thought to myself, you know, for both Hogback and Absalom, if you're just trapped on an island completely alone with no honey for who knows how many years, decades, centuries, thousands, millions, you know, who could really say when you're a zombie? But I mean, would I be able to not act like a complete animal freak? I mean, you know, you got your mansion, you got everything going on there. I mean, I'm just trying to keep it realistic, you know, just like the way I kind of placed myself in it mentally was like, okay, if you got put into prison for 30 years in a maximum security prison. You get 23 hours locked into a dark room. You get 1 hour a day to go like jump in a 3x3 foot cage or something so that your heart doesn't explode. And all of a sudden your female guard comes in a bikini one day and she's like, hey, what's going on? I mean, are you going to be just so mentally broken that your humanity's completely gone? And
well, we have an answer to that.
Being a werewolf creature
in this very volume. So we also have the parallel of Brook, the gentleman skeleton who has been alone on his ghost ship, surrounded by the corpses of his own men for decades, literally alone. Absalom, he's hanging out with fucking Sindri. Like there's a chick right there he gets to see every day. Brook was literally alone with no other human for decades, and when he sees beautiful Nami, he doesn't try to rape her and pin her up against the wall. He just wants to see her panties and very politely asks the question. Okay, you don't have to be an animal freak just because you have had a bit of a dry spell. And I don't think Absalom has any excuse here. I mean, he's literally surrounded by beautiful, sexy zombies.
And also, for the time being, I do agree with you on that, by the way. I want to just let that say for the record.
I think that goes without saying that Eggy agrees with that, that raping is no excuse.
But in the same way where some inclination in me is like, okay, maybe this zombie stuff, there might be like a magical item or something. Once again, I'm taking from other properties I'm familiar with and, explanations that there could be.
I think devil fruits is always a good guess.
True. Yeah, that's very fair. But when I see Absalom behaving in this way and is invisible, peeping and aggressive and all these terrible things, is that to achieve maybe a greater goal? Like it's not all just a complete perversion.
I will make you my bride. Does he need like a ritual of some kind and a sacrificial bride maybe?
I mean, there's definitely this intimidation factor that wouldn't necessarily be needed at all, I don't think. They're really just shooting themselves in their deteriorating feet to kind of be so gung-ho about some of these things. Hogback's trying to keep it on the low, trying to, be a little subtle with it, and, they aren't really following his lead on that. But maybe there is a... Yeah, it could be just in the same way that when they arrive onto the island, the first group, Nami, Chopper, and Usopp.
The weakling trio.
There's an implication that it's like, oh, we got to get back because night is falling now and it's about to get worse. So then we see Absalom having a wolf-type zone fruit, could be werewolf. So there might be something to do with that where it's night is falling, the full moon is coming out, werewolf style. Maybe it's making him go crazy, freakish, and it's a different level than what maybe he would normally be. So maybe this extremely aggressive, obscene behavior that has no excuse, it could just be something that is like he loses control a little bit. And once again,
I do think Rob Lucci said zone fruits kind of have a will of their own and can take you over when you transform into them, and that's why he was more beastly in his not jaguar form, whatever the fuck he was. Keep getting those mixed up somehow. Leopard, yeah. So if Absalom is actually some sort of beast zone, I will agree with Eggy. This full moon might be making him horny in some way. So let's hold out and hope that's a good excuse for this character. Otherwise, I guess the villain is just a rapist. Man, I thought it was bad enough that he was doing all these villainous things, but a rapist on top of that, Eggy? It's too much. Something must be done. This better be Sanji's ultimate kill. You better become the hunter again.
It's just like when the Joker said, "Hey, listen, I might kill a lot of people and blow up buildings, but I'm not some fucking bigot.
I'm not a racist." Yeah, I was trying to get to that, but I realized he hasn't done anything racist, so I had to pivot in my comparison. But I did have a second top of mind that I think is very funny from a grand narrative meta sort of thing that I think Oda's doing very intentionally, where we have basically 120 chapters of build-up to Frankie joining the crew in the Water 7 arc. And then in this new arc, literally, like chapter 1, we immediately meet Brook, and one of the first questions is, will you join the crew? And he says yes, immediately. What'd you think of this, Aggie?
Well, I want to tie it also because it is a thread throughout really the entire volume. As soon as we start the thriller bark arc, truly, Luffy on multiple occasions, even so much as asking like some of these horrible, twisted, freakish. I think they take Cerberus. He's like riding him around. He's asking just these. I don't know. I guess I'll call them monsters. I think that it's the monsters.
Is it an ant?
Thriller Bark is.
Are those the monsters from Lord of the Rings, the tree people, the Ents? Could that be what this is supposed to be? These trees with faces and unicorns? It's like Lord of the Rings monsters.
Yeah, the Ents that I've been familiar with and the properties that I've had they're kind of just like trees with like, I guess, there's like openings for eyes and a mouth, and maybe they might have some kind of light or something that indicates the eyes or something like that a little more. As I recall reading through this volume, I don't have any exact screenshots or whatever handy at the exact moment, but I'm pretty sure it was like complete human faces, just like looking like some magic mirror out of Snow White, just like a nice pale, like kind of freakish expression, like it just inside, well, on the face of the animals, like sitting in the trunk of the tree. But Luffy, he sees I think a tree and a unicorn, and he just also comes up to them and says, "Oh, hey, you want to join my crew?" And they're like, "But."
Now, I might have to call some shenanigans, and I know we've been saying things are Mickey on this show to copy the Black One Piece fans when things get too cartoonish. This arc, we're not saying Mickey. We're saying Scooby, baby. Things are getting Scooby, but that's a good thing. There's high Scooby-Doo energy. But Luffy is usually a great judge of character, and he's only going to ask people to join the crew if, he can sense that there's goodness in their heart. Even if he is interested in them because they're freakish, like when he invited Chopper, he only wants these things to join because they look freakish. And we know that this tree man and this unicorn actually have evil souls, because when the weakling trio is going by in their carriage, the trees are all like celebrating, like, "Oh, we got prey. And then when they look again, they all hide. That was hysterically funny to me. But Luffy, not so great judge of character here, asking these demented evil trees who were tormenting his own crewmates to join the crew. It's no bueno, Luffy. I smell a plot hole, Oda, unless this was intentional for the current day arc, huh? Red herring? Intentional, Oda? I doubt it.
A piggyback, you're saying that replacing the Mickey with Scooby, probably the actual real second top of mind for me was the art direction on Ghost Island and forward is a whole new atmosphere for me. I don't think we've ever seen this sort of shading, the way that these environments are drawn. Just such a true sinister energy that we're getting from. I kind of felt like almost like I was getting taken out of One Piece, and I was reading some sort of horror manga, to be honest. And this volume, and really the second chapter moving forward in particular here, it gave me just really a very different energy from anything that I've read in this series up until this point, just of how much sinister and truly scary and spooky energy is put through just from the artwork here.
I think Oda has a goal of having his characters go through basically every possible genre, and he's a master of genre blending and bringing out the tone of what every genre is meant to be. I might have teased before that there's like a Disney movie sort of arc in the future, samurais and sci-fi, and this is very much the Tim Burton horror Scooby-Doo kind of thing, and he does bring it. He's drawing truly gruesome, gnarly creatures that Cerberus, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, that, even with the fox head, like that didn't look like anything we've ever seen in One Piece up to that point. And I like that he sends the three weakest of the crew out on this adventure through the horrible, spooky island and all the traps and stuff, so we can actually see them effectively spook as they're meant to be. And then a few chapters later, just the rest of the crew goes through and it's just a walk through the park. They're laughing. Robin calls the Cerberus cute. They're just having a great time, obliterating everybody, pushing the zombies back into the graves. So that was a lot of fun that you get to see the same environment as it's intended to be, and then how the rest of the strong people would treat it. But yeah, I like the genre bending and how it still feels like One Piece, even though it looks very different from most of what we've seen before. He's turning the humor up probably to an 11 in this volume in particular, after the absolute lore dump of last volume.
Yeah, just the high stakes, everything to do with Eni's lobby. I mean, and even prior to that, really just everything from like Iceberg's attempted assassination, really up to the end of departure of Water 7. And yeah, I would say that I wasn't sure, like I said, it was a prediction for Fishman Island, but the energy of this for these few chapters, really before we start getting into the real mix of the Hogback Mansion and all that, I did get the energy of like a transitory period there with Brook showing up and all that too, and kind of getting us a cause for assisting him, and we get that thread to kind of start pulling on and kind of leading us into the next major piece of the pie. And I wanted to touch on this also. It's kind of not necessarily to do with Brook, but the fact that Frankie, the thoughtful gentleman that he is, we mentioned the ship that had carried the weakling trio to the shore before everybody else. The Mini Mary, oh my goodness, it's fantastic, it's beautiful. Is
Oda a coward? He says, I'll kill off this major character, but hey, he's got a little brother who's basically exactly the same, and he's still here. We go, okay, I guess Mini Mary's here. Is that did he go under the ocean and get the masthead? Like, what the fuck? He remade that from memory? Looks exactly the same.
You know what? I'd be willing to give it a pass just off the fact that this volume is jam-packed with ship designs. I think Oda might have been a shipwright, and as a side hustle, or maybe a hobby, even beyond. I guess it would make sense for him to be interested and knowledgeable about ship construction, considering the content of his work. But it also just kind of as a personal thing, I enjoyed how they described it as like a shopping ship, like, oh, if you can just take the ship out. And I was like, a small motorized or steam powered is what they called it, but like a small kind of little vessel just for shopping. Yeah, I got one of those plugged into my wall right now. It's called the scooter.
Mm-hmm. I love its utility in the story, because Oda needs an excuse for the 3 weakest characters to embark onto the spooky island initially without everybody else. So the only way that makes sense is if they want to try out the new Mini Mary, and it's the best possible time to introduce that. So Oda, every little bit of plotting needs like a lot of information beforehand to even make sense. And yeah, I don't know how far back he even plans that kind of stuff, but almost every chapter he has to have excuses for why people do the things that they do, and it almost always makes sense. Should we start going through this arc a little bit chronologically, Aggie? Although, actually, we have a new member of the crew. Let's do that first. We have welcome to the Measly Crew. You could join, too, at Mumkey D. Jones' YouTube channel by becoming a member for $3. It's Cry of the Wolf.
Oh, my lord, what incredible timing. Well, listen, you know what? At least Nami wasn't crying from the wolf, if you know what I'm saying.
He's the ship rapist?
No. But we do have Absalom being what appears to be a wolf type. He's a general, so I think perhaps...
Can a wolf turn invisible, Aggie? Because he's like the invisible man for most of this.
Well, maybe it ties into the fact to do with all this shadow stealing we're hearing about, because we have like Brook and the old man in the graveyard
with serious injuries, who's not a zombie.
And we know from Brook, with his having had his shadow stolen and these strange vampiric qualities that gives him, he can't see his reflection. Maybe the zone type fruit is not what we think it is. Maybe it's just a real werewolf kind of power that's not a devil fruit, and his devil fruit is similar to the soap fruit, where maybe he's like making his skin so shiny that he reflects in it. Yeah, I don't know, to be honest.
Maybe there's some sort of mythical wolf in lore that could turn invisible that Oda is copying. Again, we'll see. But what is Cry of the Wolf gonna do on our ship?
Feeling like sort of a rallying figure, because I think having played real-time strategy games, you need to rally your troops, and it's like that's gets them going. Basically, it's like, you know, when I wake up in the morning, I turn on that hip hop to get that money, and I'm getting in my zone when I get up. So I'm thinking maybe this guy, he sounds like a good, I don't know if there is such a position as like a rallying general. I might have to look into this, but working title, you're our military rallying specialist. You know,
he's the Bello Betty, I think is the name. Something like that.
That's right. Sounds like a fitting title for me.
Okay. Welcome to the crew. Cry of the Wolf, Bello Betty. I hope I'm getting that right, but I'll look it up later. Eggy, don't look it up. Hey, arc opens up with Luffy and Usopp fishing. They catch a shark, throw it in their fish tank. Uh-oh, it eats all the fish. Should have seen that one coming.
I do appreciate that the shark burps as they walk in and like see it after it eats all the fish.
Now, would you fall for this trick? There's a barrel floating in the ocean that says treasure, and they open it mostly because they think there's going to be some ocean-rocked booze inside, and oh, Zoro, he's ready. But this ultimately shoots up the flare that has them run away and get lost in the Florian Triangle. But did this seem like an obvious trap to you, Eggy? Would you open a mysterious barrel that says treasure on it that's floating in the ocean?
Yeah, I don't think that any treasure ever in history, except for like the X marks the spot on the treasure map, has ever just been labeled treasure. So, I mean, that's like, I don't know how much more blatant you could possibly be to just have it be an obvious foolery. But at the same time, if it had been like a tongue-in-cheek, like, oh, that's me treasure for when the day's a little rough, you know what I'm saying? And it was actually alcohol in there. I mean, I'm diving off the side of the ship immediately.
Yeah.
So
even with the devil fruit, you'd risk drowning for it. But
I got good aim. I could land on the barrel and they'll hold me up probably.
Nami, after this flare goes up, Nami senses like a change and the weather is coming or a storm is coming, so they run away. And later, Brook is like, oh, what, did you see a barrel? That was a trap. That's how you got trapped here in Thriller Bark. The mouth gate opened and ate you guys up. But does that make sense? The flare... a flare would tell you where somebody is, but then the flare seemed to trigger a weather change that Nami sensed, and then they ran away, and that just happened to lead them into the fog of the Florian Triangle, aka the Demon's Triangle, a place where new game ideas disappear into darkness forever. I thought that was strange that Oda put that in there.
Yeah, he was a few years ahead of his time, I think, on that one, but I don't know how many years it was in development. So, you know, might have been in development for 5 years or 4.5 years to make that point, but.
There's a lot of games I hear that will never come out of the Florian Triangle that have been developed for over a decade each, and poor mouse, it might never see the day. It's trapped in the fog, searching for its soul as its body decays to bones and afro.
And if there's a Florian Triangle, there might be an Eggy Triangle with like 20 unfinished albums, but that's something that I got put onto a website. You can look at Audio Z, like the word audio with the Z at the end. It has all the technology you need to produce better quality music for possibly free. So thankfully,
it's not AI music, is it, Eggy?
No, it's real. Well, it's got, you know, it's
AI enhancement. It's not just making it. Okay, that's better. It's not King Cobra saying I made a new album and it's fucking AI music and AI lyrics. Like, geez.
Vocal plugins and things like that, you know, that you still have to know how to twist the dials around. So it's not 100% AI, but. You know, it might be the missing component I needed to produce, you know, $1 million quality music in the comfort of my own podcasting enclosure. So thankfully I'm taking steps to get that together. So maybe Ball Frog, you know, and Poor Mouse will escape. Eggy the album will escape, and we'll all get our shadows back. We can go outside again instead of sitting inside. It's
the two triangles will come together to form a square of some kind, and it'll be peace. The Florian Eggy Square. It'll be hip to be there. Hey, giant ghost ship that Brook is on appears behind them, and everybody on the crew, including Luffy, is screaming in horror and terror, except for, and I know I was saying Perona's the waifu of the volume, but really, top tier waifu Robin is coming into her own as a dark, sort of edgy character here. She's not scared of the ghost ship. I don't really think she's ever afraid. She thinks that the Cerberus is cute, of course, so she's got that gothic sense to her. She's enjoying this very much like me. Maybe her and Perona as a harem, yeah, thematically might be a good time. If you're into that,
you gotta be king of the pirates to handle all that, if you know what I'm saying.
That's right. That might be end game for Luffy and Zoro, who could say. But they draw lots to see who's gonna go check out the ghost ship, because we saw a skeleton with an afro sipping some tea, and we need to go check it out. And who goes? Luffy, Nami, and Sanji?
Yes, I believe that is correct.
And I think Luffy's initial question before asking him to join the crew is if he still has to poop. Yeah, the answer is yes.
Yeah, I did enjoy. Yeah, I mean, honestly, just right off the bat there, I mean, we're talking about Luffy. Is he really gauging the right kind of energy for people? I mean, I think we might be playing catch up. We might be on on yesterday's time, while Luffy he's in the future. So I mean, he knows exactly how to gauge the right kind of responses from his prospective crewmates. And that's, do they want to see your navigator's panties, and do they still have to poop?
Do you like the idea that a skeleton with no organs still has to eat, and he can drink tea, and he's still defecating? Does that make sense with the devil fruit logic to you?
Well, I want to say no, but the way that he explains it, I guess, is about the best that it could. If he's got the strong follicles that have never fallen out of his skull, even after he died and was left for like an entire year. Are we
to believe that Brook in his human form was a brother? Do we have a black man to join Usopp on the crew?
Well, he does say that he was a musician by trade, so obviously, he is a soul brother. That's why he's got the afro. I'm pretty sure that's what the requirements were based on the Davy back fight, was that that's the soul brother.
That's right.
Signifier is the afro.
I'm trying to get one myself.
It's just based off the way that it's drawn. It does have a lot of volume, so that in itself would suggest afro, and you couldn't really, maybe keep it trim for the fact that he's, been just floating around the sea here for a very long time. But I think maybe there's enough plausible deniability that it could just be some textured hair, and maybe he's could be Greek. Maybe he's going to be like a throat singer or something. I don't know how that works as a skeleton, but yeah, if I had to guess what my first inclination was, going to be a brother. But I think I would probably lean on the anime to maybe ascribe him a type of voice to let me know for sure.
I think he's voiced by a white guy, and almost certainly a Japanese guy in the original dub, if that helps.
That's fair, yeah.
What about Austrian? Would it be good if he was Austrian from the Florian Triangle?
Yeah, I mean, it would be fitting. I just saw
it'd be so bizarre that you almost wouldn't believe it if it appeared in the SBS one day. You'd think that Oda was somehow trolling us in a way.
Hey, for all I know, it would seem that way, but for all I know, maybe in Austria, maybe Florian Brook is like a really popular name. Maybe it's like John Smith in America, you see the statistics of how many people have that name, and maybe it's more common than you might think. Just
oh damn! Luffy brings Brook to meet the rest of the crew, and Usopp says this has to be a dream, and Chopper believes that. He's like, oh, what a relief! We're just dreaming. he stops freaking out. let's talk about how much we enjoy Brook here, because they're at the dining table, and Brook notices that Sanji gave Robin a bigger cut of meat, because of course he would, and Brook has no shame in asking her to trade. If somebody did that to me, like if we're at a restaurant and we order the same thing and I get the better steak, if a motherfucker asks me to trade, go back to your ghost ship. It's not happening. So not a great first impression for Robin, but again, she seems down to clown with any freakish things, so I don't think she was too offended.
Yeah, and it, maybe it's a sign of poor manners, or maybe it's just a sign, that, sometimes a brother just got to be able to be assertive. Maybe like, hey, I haven't eaten in, 100 years, and, every bit of this is going to be necessary. So sometimes you got to just make your move.
Well, there's really
behind the ship, and
he's got a lot of oxymoron qualities to him, because he is a gentleman skeleton, but he spent 50 some odd years, let's suppose, completely alone without any other humans. So it's like he has this nobility to him and politeness, but also the depravedness, like you were saying, of isolation. So the fact that he's asking to see panties is absurd, but on one hand, he's not raping her. He's politely asking for something crazy. And again, here with Robin, it's not normal to ask somebody to steal their food like that. But the fact that he's asking at all, it's like this conflict of, I want the animal instinct of stealing your food, but I need to be the gentleman at the same time. And also, he's the living dead. He's a living oxymoron. And have we gone into his fruit enough? The revive fruit. I think this is major lore for the entire world, because it's undeniable evidence that there is a land of the dead that his spirit came back from.
We could come to, in the next volume, or maybe 2 volumes out from now, that could honestly just explain a significant amount of what's happened here in the in Dr. Hogback's lab, in the surrounding environment with these zombies crawling out of the ground. Yeah, maybe there was just a big revive fruit tree on the island, which also turns out the island is actually just a piece of a absolutely massive pirate ship, as it turns out that by the end of the volume here. But hey, maybe there was something to do with this revive fruit. Maybe it was just a real common, because who wants to have to, we've talked about, this fruit's better than this fruit, but this is just, oh yeah, you get to come back after you die, but you have to live your entire life and then die, and then just,
and you can't swim your whole life. Yeah, so until you die, it's the most useless fruit you could possibly have. But pretty convenient now.
Actually, something just came to mind for me too. This might be completely unheard of, but
brain blast moment.
If, we in our modern day, we hear things like, what's that, Neuralink, where you could, in your mind, it could make you, if you were a prisoner, you could serve like 1 million years of like a mental sentence, but only 1 second passes in real life, or something like that, right? Maybe this revive fruit could be utilized by somebody who has a lot of servants or a lot of workers, that he says, if you could live forever, then you could work for me forever and be my servant forever, be my slave forever, whatever. So maybe this would be like some kind of fruit that a tyrant would want to feed to a populace, so that they can just constantly be at his beck and call for all times.
But can't only one person have a devil fruit power at a time?
I guess I'm not sure, to be honest. It would make sense. I don't think we've seen any repeats yet,
but maybe a power like that could be used on other people, and you don't have to eat it to still get the benefit.
It's an idea, yeah. It's just something that popped into mind of, like, I'm still trying to come at this whole situation from different vectors.
Well, let's talk about the shadows then, because Brook, as much as he would love to join the crew, he can't, because a man stole his shadow, and if he goes into sunlight, he'll just burn up and die and turn into ashes. And we find out at the end of the volume, the man with the shadow stealing power is a 7 warlord of the sea, Gecko Moria, and we see him, and he's a fucking gigantic freak. Just a huge freak.
Isn't he? Do we see him exactly? Or
He's
is he
very
still
silhouetted, but like his
Yeah.
minions are like this big compared to him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I wonder if the fact that he is silhouetted, if that has anything to do with the fact that he's been stealing these shadows. It just seems like a very, I mean, it makes sense that you would want to inflict this on somebody because, if you can steal their shadow, they're just gonna, instantly disintegrate in sunlight. That's a very powerful thing to be able to do to somebody who's your enemy. But in his stealing of the shadow, I guess I have to wonder, is this something that is increases his power in any way besides the fact that he's just doing this to somebody? Like, does he have a greater purpose for taking people's shadow away? Like,
well, we do have some mysteries. He does give us some puzzle pieces to play with here. So,
even
go ahead.
He himself might be somebody who is susceptible to the same sort of damage from sunlight, and maybe by taking the shadow, he can use that as some sort of cloak, and that's why he's in the dark now. And maybe that's the way that he prefers to be. But
Luffy might have to beat him by getting some sun on him, some vampire kind of strategy here. But when we meet Brook, he's singing his little song, yo ho ho ho, yo ho ho ho. And when the weakling trio, they go through the secret passage in the back of the fireplace, they're sneaking around the Hogback mansion, and they come across somebody who they think is Brook. And the portraits call him out as the security guard. He's got a sword. He's a swordsman. He's singing Brook's little yo ho ho, but didn't look like Brook to me. Is there anything there?
Well, I also noticed that he had some, what I would call, they were like a certain type of footwear, like a certain type of sandal almost, that I feel like I was getting a flashback to maybe not even Zoro and his training days as a youth. I'm sure that it's just a very standard sort of footwear for a swordsman, but I was trying to really get a look at what is displayed of him to try and glean something there, but we just don't have any inclination from anything that Brook said to us that he had any sort of swordsman history. I guess my next best guess would be that in him having lost his crewmates in this fog, and we do see that there's multiple instances of reanimated dead on Ghost Island. Maybe the yo ho 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 was a old ditty from Brook's crewmates that maybe they used to sing together, and maybe this is one of his people that got cast away and brought back as a Hogback minion.
I like the connections you're making, Aggie. We've also got the Sindri character, who we find out was an actress who died 10 years ago, but she's walking around throwing plates in Usopp's face. And they're like, well, if this is really the Sindri that we just read this newspaper about, why is she throwing plates? Shouldn't she be afraid of falling off a stage and dying? Her personality seems very strange from what we've read. And how do you revive somebody 10 years later anyway?
Yeah, and I think the way that part of Hogback's description of her initial aggressive behavior towards Usopp is to do with she had this aristocratic husband, and that was part of what's
she was doing a shit test on him. Oh, if I break his most expensive plates and he gets mad, he's not good enough for me anyway. If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Maybe this bitch deserved to die.
Hey, all I'm saying is, when I look at Hollywood today, these actors and actresses, I've seen them on these islands, and I ain't talking about Ghost Island, but it might add just as many dead people. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
I just want to say this real quick, too, concerning we touched on this before. So when they go and they take the Mini Mary out for a little spin test, and they get into this weather that they come through the mouth gate, I guess is my point I want to make here. My first thought of this before. It's just really like a couple panels back to back. But the mouth gate did give me a little bit of like a reverse mountain sort of vibe real quick. I'm thinking to myself, okay, we had Laboon before. He's eating you up, and now you're inside of him and living in there. And I don't know if we know enough yet to completely rule that out. I'm just going off of this little diagram we get a couple little diagrams. We get this first little diagram where Robin is kind of showing all the island is surrounded by this gate, which has the mouth gate entry and exit, which then gets expanded upon further later on. Oh, by the way, this is all also on this enormous pirate ship. So I'm not going to rule it all out entirely. Maybe there could be another like Laboon type of situation here. It did come to mind for me because, you get eaten by a giant vessel once, you get PTSD about it, and it's always in the back of your mind somewhere as an option.
It's described as a ghost island that floats, so that it's an island that is also a ship. And I think it's interesting that in the previous arc, even 3 or 4 chapters earlier in the story, Iceberg is saying, I want to turn Water 7 into a floating island, essentially a ship. And it turns out somebody's already done that. Like, that's what Thriller Bark literally is. And we also find out that it originated in the West Blue. Now, I'm not looking at the One Piece globe right now. I might be mistaken. But given where we are on the Grand Line, I feel like the West Blue is on the other side of the Red Line. So how did this giant Thriller Bark ship island cross the endless Red Line mountain? How would it be here?
Well, we've seen, I think the only thing that really had the ability to go through solid objects that we saw in this volume was Perona's ghost minions.
Could there be a quality? Could she give the quality of ghost transparency or translucence? Whatever fucking word it means, I go through walls. Could she just touch the island to make the whole thing do that? Go full Danny Phantom.
If there was to be any sort of vessel or some sort of power that I think the Ghost Island ship that has ghost people on it, they should be like the number one people to be able to do that. Because she's going to make the mountains depressed. They're going to start sulking. They're going to take the virgin pose and have their neck craning down. The islands are craning down so they could hit a big wave and go Sky Pia mode, launch off. And
it is convenient that in the horror arc, all of the villains have devil fruit powers that are spooky. It's like, okay, you're the ghost one. This cheetah man's turning all invisible somehow, or wolf, whatever we think his face looks like. Yeah,
I did take a quick second peek at him, and he does look a little bit more cat-like. So maybe werewolf is. But you know what? It's not a panther look, but in World of Warcraft, it is what it is. I was going to go there. I'm about to play this new server coming out next month. Cats and panthers in that game have a stealth and cloaking ability. So that's something to, you know what? If there was any connection to make between a cat man and going invisible, that's the damn best that I got is cloaking panthers and shadow maw panthers from World of Warcraft. So maybe there's some other connection throughout other historical fantasy properties throughout time as well, but I wouldn't know it off the top of my head.
What do you think of this Brook being just a skeleton? He's so light that he can run on water.
That is a hilarious panel, I must say, because really everything with Brook, he is probably the last character that I would say would be one I would describe as one of these cultural osmosis characters I've referred to throughout the series here, where I have seen this guy around on pictures here and there in the third.
Oh, you mean in my house right there on the wall?
Maybe. Well, I mean, that could be anybody.
That could be any skull with an afro.
That's right. So really,
hey, somehow you missed out on Frankie through cultural osmosis. So who knows?
True, yeah.
Anything could happen.
I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. As Frankie stands right now, I'm just still expecting that he's gonna disappear at any moment because I just for that reason.
You think he's not still a real crew member?
Yeah. if he's gonna, I mean, I don't know. Let me get like 10 more volumes in, and he's still around. Okay, then I'll think about it. But
Let's see. 10. Will Frankie be around in 10 volumes? Is that Eggy's prediction? Frankie will not be around in 10 volumes. That might be a good prediction, Eggy. You gonna lock that one in? Volume 56. We'll see very little Frankie, if any. Good idea.
I would be surprised. Like I said, just based off of what I will call cultural osmosis. Like, I don't remember seeing this guy in any, like, posters or whatever, this way or that way along the way.
Very unpopular character.
But anyway, so for that reason, I was very, locked in on every single thing that he had to say, because, Luffy's inviting him to join the crew right away. I'm like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. I think probably from that bit that I've gleaned. So for him to just kind of, plead his case of what he's going through, and
and he says he doesn't even want help. He says, I'd love to join you, but I can't ask a stranger. This is my mission. Hey, thanks for accidentally bringing me straight to Thriller Bark.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a he's got a good energy that I like. He's still kept it together relatively well, considering he's been through quite a bit. 2 lifetimes and a whole lot of isolation. He could still enjoy his tea and a good meal, even if the manners are a little sketchy. And
he's working on it, yeah. He's certainly more kind than I would be after 50 years in solitary. I might be like Eggy. I might be going full Absalom on Nami. It is what it is. A mind is not meant to be socially isolated for decades. We're just not built that way. Brook has great mental fortitude as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, just imagine his soul. Like he says that that's why he's a skeleton, is because it took him 12 months to even find the remains of his body. I might have given it 3 weeks and it's been yeah, whatever. Purgatory, yeah, all right, where's it at? Yeah, all the unbaptized babies. Let's go hang out for a while. You know what?
Yeah, I wonder if his soul could have taken over any body, or if could he find the corpse of some guy who's not on a lonely pirate ship? But
it could have been an Elbaf giant skeleton instead. That would have been pretty badass.
That would have been better.
But anyhow, yeah, to bring it to the his final, he pleads his case, and then he's taken off on the water, and they always got the devil fruit. So how could you do that? But yeah, he's churning like a damn jet ski. So that was a humorous send off, and I'm definitely looking forward to more Brook after we can hopefully help him out here. And it doesn't make any sense, because Morai Gecko, or Gecko Mori, however the
Gecko Moria,
yeah, sorry. For some reason, with all of this camouflage, invisibility, shadow, all this stuff, my mind keeps on putting a chameleon instead of a gecko, as what he would be. I mean, is there geckos that do color changing and stuff based on temperature, maybe? But
yeah, probably.
Yeah, for some reason that's just where my mind kept on going to there. But
are all of the warlords so far named after animals? Mihawk, crocodile, gecko. What's the dealio? Is it gonna? Because crocodile, we were trying to figure out what that has to do with sand. Is he gonna have a gecko-based power in some way? Is that what you're trying to get at here?
It just kind of, maybe the invisibility was a big part of it. Because at first, the touching and things that go on the ship, we see Luffy's face getting stretched out comically and all this. I was willing to believe that was some sort of ghost power, ghost energy, and I think that they figure as much at the time. But then we get a little bit more of with Nami's shower cult. Then we're thinking, okay, maybe was that him in both cases? In any case, with the camouflaging aspect, the cloaking aspect, and then having another reptilian named enemy, just where my mind goes when I kind of get these couple bits of information in one sitting here.
Is there anything else major we need to cover from this volume? Because I think we've covered most of it. Probably just missing a lot of the classic jokes that people love, like Luffy sees a zombie and thinks it's an old man with grave injuries. No, it's a zombie. But then they meet an actual old man with grave injuries. That's a classic joke. People love the animated gif of Luffy pushing a zombie back into its grave. You might have seen that as a meme at some point. We have more evidence that Nami is a lesbian, because when they're looking at all these Sindri portraits, she says, oh, Sindri's really pretty. I don't hear her calling men handsome. Twice now? Nami's getting horny for women? I'm just saying, it would make sense.
You know, it's fair. You gotta grow up around the Arlong pirate crew, and you see a lot of freakishness. I mean, if I grew up around, like, a bunch of fishmen grandmothers all getting drunk all day, I probably would say to myself, hey, you know what? Maybe I might just, not be so interested in women after being surrounded by that my entire life. You know, it is what it is.
Did we ever get confirmation that the number 42 means death? That's like a thing, right? I
think that is just Japanese culture, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, because I think they got a theory brewing here. We meet Brook in chapter 442. Of course, it's intentional that the guy who's literally come back from the dead is introduced in chapter 442. Now, as you may recall, and I mentioned this in chapter 42, the original 42, is the first time we don't get to see him, but I think we hear the name Dracula Mihawk. And what Dracula, a vampire, living dead, introduced on 42. Brook's introduced in a 42 chapter. He's back from the dead. My theory is, hey, did Dracula Mihawk die and come back alive at some point? He's introduced in that way. And Brook is a skeleton, so we can't see his eyes, but would he have Mihawk type of eyes? Are those the eyes of somebody who has come back from the dead with those rings around the pupil like that? Could it be? We can't. There's no way of knowing because Brook doesn't have eyes. But
well, and so considering, with Mihawk being a warlord of the sea, Moria is a warlord of the sea. Maybe Moria might have taken his shadow at some point. Maybe he had a bit of a Dracula arc, and then maybe he did combat and was able to get his shadow back, or maybe they made some kind of arrangements due to the fact that they both are warlords. I do want to make an amendment real quick to something I said earlier, because I happened to just page across another JPEG as I was checking back in on something here. But actually, the trees, they do, I guess, have more of a traditional Ent structure in the face than I remembered reading into it. But it's like there's also a stitching of some kind. Mm-hmm. Like it looks like without the stitches in the bark, it would be no question that they have that traditional Ent visage. But yeah, the stitching of the face, which seems to be something consistent throughout all of the reanimated creatures, including Sindri.
Well, and Absalom, I think his face is a little stitched up too. So is his animal part from a devil fruit, or is it stitched on like the wolf head onto the Cerberus?
Well, considering the stitching is there. I mean, it's
so actually there was no excuse for the rape after all. There is no animal instincts taking over. No. But I guess we'll find out later. Aggie, any other predictions or theories for the future of Thriller Bark?
Well, it's a very different environment. It really kind of kept me guessing from the very beginning of the arc. It's a lot of new, but at the same time, there's still Oda, so we still have some things to feel out and look for. Let me think. I think I am going to stick on the prediction for now. I think the mysterious swordsman who was singing the Brook chant, I think that he has some connection to it could be an ex-crewmate that was reanimated, but I feel like there is a connection there. I guess I'm probably thinking there's going to be some combat coming up between the Straw Hats and the Generals. I suppose Dr.
Yeah, who's
Hogback.
going to fight who, I guess, yeah. And so far, Chopper has had a great respect and admiration for Hogback, so maybe if his childish delusions of his hero are shattered, would that be a good 1v1 for Chopper?
I think that their power levels seem to be, like that's the thing. The Dr. Hogback seems kind of more of like a guy who's behind the lines, but I guess really both the generals are too. They kind of seem like the zombie Zerg rush, so to speak, is like, what their offense sort of relies on. We have Perona with her depressing ghost, but it seems like a great way to cripple your enemy offensively, but I just don't know if I really feel like it's got such incredible power that it's going to be like that's what her power is going to be entirely. I feel like she's got a little more up under her ghostly sleeve. That's right.
Who's fighting Perona? Nami? Get a hot
Nami
chick fight?
Yes, for that reason, and I think that maybe her weather baton could maybe there's might be a weather-based attack that could disperse the ghosts more effectively than something physical. I think as far as our crew stands now, that would be the best option, perhaps.
Those ghosts do seem pretty immortal. Luffy couldn't. His net went straight through them. I think fire didn't work on them. So, yeah, if just touching them cripples you and makes you super depressed, that might be kind of a difficult thing to get around.
We'll just express this quite thusly. This might be the hardest to gauge volume, just because of how, even like Skypiea, at least there was something kind of tangible in regards to our own reality. It wasn't, they're up in the sky and there's, God is smiting people and everything like that. That's pretty fantastical, but this is kind of unusual in its wholly own way, that where I'm kind of, I might need another volume to start getting my head wrapped around some of the finer points here. I think, I was kind of like the weakling trio a little bit. There's just paintings jumping out of the wall, rugs are coming to life, there's zombies and freaks and talking skeletons and all kinds of things going on. I was kind of feeling like this.
Mm-hmm. Huge tone shift from hanging out with Kobe and Helmeppo last week. But hey, more Thriller Bark yet to come. Who knows how much more? But for the One Piece Virgins Egghead Book Club podcast, which I think I've been saying that wrong for a while. It's the One Piece Virgin, because only one virgin. Eggheads, that should be plural, because we're both eggheads in a way when it comes to One Piece. Right. But anyway, it doesn't matter. If you want to join the crew, you know how to do it. $3 membership on the channel. Join the Discord. Anything you want to plug this week, Eggy?
Well, I'm going to echo your plug, because we did just try out a little bit of online multiplayer One Piece fighting gaming just a bit ago for a members exclusive video. Just only playing characters that we're familiar with in this game, of course. Don't want to spoil anything.
Which we do have some feedback on that. Again, we were doing a test video of us playing One Piece Burning Blood for Steam online just to see how it would look and if we could handle it on the computer. It was a little bit laggy, and the feedback from the paid members, not great. Bimbo Alabama said low frames, low T, and low energy. So not even just shitting on the quality of the gameplay, but us as well. He said we had low T and low energy. We did literally film it at midnight, but so Moali says, "Dear God, was Foxy here?" Using slow beam, I assume, on the gameplay. So we did say, hey, if this gets 25 likes from the members, we'll do another episode soon. I don't think we're going to get 10, so they did not care for that. But next time we play that game, we're not doing it through the computer. We're going to do it in person, so there's no more lag, and it'll be far more enjoyable. So we'll probably just stream that for people. But I think the one guy that became a member did it after we posted it, so maybe that's what tricked him into joining. So it was useful for one thing.
And we'll, it was a test, and we're gonna increase both the our test. That's right, we're gonna pump it up, and we're gonna work out all the bugs in the kinks. So,
and it ended with a secret Pokemon showdown battle between me and Eggy. I'm not gonna reveal who won, and most of the people who watched it probably didn't make it that far and don't even know that it happened. But hey, there's a secret Pokemon battle in that members exclusive video called Burning Blood Battles. Go check it out.
That's right. But we will have some more member exclusive. We got our tier list coming up for Skypea that we're going to be recording, and and some more.
And now we can do the Water
gaming.
7 tier list as well of all those characters. So that'll take a long time. That's a big chunk.
We'll sit down and knock them out because we appreciate your support very much. So just wait on that. And thank you again for all the like smashing, subscribing, and commenting. And do some more of that because then we can read them on the episodes as well. So for the One Piece Virgin Eggheads Book Club podcast in the thick fog of Thriller Bark, I have been your vice captain, as joined as always by hot, sexy anime figurines. They're just off to the side of me, and I'm not talking about Dr. Eggman over here.
Peace, people. One Piece.